The vastness of space lay still and silent as the Valoran allies conducted their diplomatic meeting on the bridge of the starship Unity, a sleek vessel glimmering under the starlight. Delegates from various planets exchanged pleasantries and discussed trade routes. Their laughter echoed in the chamber, but it was abruptly shattered by the shrill alarm of a proximity alert. A tense hush fell over the room as the captain stood up, her eyes widening in disbelief on the view screen. A massive fleet of Galactic Council warships emerged from the darkness, their hulls painted a menacing black, gleaming with intent. The delegates exchanged nervous glances, their earlier camaraderie replaced by a palpable sense of dread. The captain's voice cut through the tension, commanding, "And steady, we must prepare for battle," she barked as she activated the ship's defense systems. Panic swept through the delegates as they realized the gravity of their situation. The Galactic Council had always been known for their diplomatic finesse, but this was an act of war. On the distant planet of Earth, a similar alarm blared in the control room of the United Earth Defense Force as officers scrambled to understand the source of the distress signal coming from Valoran. The screens flickered to life, revealing a live feed of the Unity under siege. Flashes of energy beams lit up the screen as the Council's ships unleashed their devastating firepower. An officer shouted out the details. "The Galactic Council is attacking our allies in Valoran. Their fleet is overwhelming. We need to respond immediately." The words sent a ripple of urgency through the room as leaders were summoned for an emergency meeting. In a dimly lit conference chamber, Earth's leaders gathered. Tension simmered in the air as they took their seats. An imposing figure, the head of the Defense Council, slammed his fist on the table. "Enough is enough. We cannot stand idly by while our allies are slaughtered. The Galactic Council must pay for this atrocity." But not everyone agreed. A softer voice rose from a corner, advocating for diplomacy. "We must consider the consequences a war could bring. It could devastate our resources and endanger our own people." As heated arguments erupted across the table, the scene grew chaotic. At the center of the discord, a young strategist named Ariel raised her hand, calling for silence. She took a deep breath and spoke with conviction. "We have to act decisively. If we do not respond, it will embolden the Council to attack again. We must protect our allies and send a clear message that Earth will not tolerate betrayal." The room fell silent as her words resonated with the leaders. One by one they nodded in agreement. A plan began to take shape to deploy Earth's warships in a swift and calculated response. They would not only avenge the fallen, but also send a warning to any who dared challenge their resolve. As the decision was made, officers scrambled to assemble the fleet. Technicians worked frantically to ensure the warships were outfitted with the latest technology. Weapons charged and shields fortified. The atmosphere was electric, with a mix of fear and determination. Back in Valoran, chaos reigned on the Unity as the crew fought to repel the Council's assault. Explosions rocked the ship, shaking everyone to their core. The captain shouted orders, but her voice was drowned out by the cacophony of alarms and the sounds of destruction. In that moment, a young ensign caught sight of a shadow looming on the views screen. A Council flagship was preparing to deliver a final blow. The realization struck like a bolt of lightning. They were outmatched and outnumbered, but they would fight until their last breath. As the Unity fought valiantly against the overwhelming forces of the Galactic Council, hope flickered in the darkness. The message from Earth was clear: reckoning was coming, and the galaxy would soon witness the fury of a united humanity. The emergency meeting room buzzed with tension as leaders from various factions of Earth gathered, their faces grim and resolute. The air was thick with anticipation. Each leader understood the weight of their decisions. They could feel the urgency pressing against them like a tidal wave ready to crash. At the head of the table, the president of the United Earth Federation stood tall, her presence commanding. As she surveyed the room, her voice broke the silence. "We have all seen the horrors inflicted upon our Valoran allies. The time for talk is over. We must act, and we must act now." A general interjected with fire in his eyes, "We cannot afford to show weakness. This is an act of aggression against all of us. The Galactic Council has underestimated our resolve. We will not stand by while they slaughter our friends." Some leaders nodded in agreement, but others hesitated. Fear rippled through the room. One council member spoke up, advocating for caution. "War could consume us all. And we must consider the potential consequences of our actions. What if we escalate this conflict and invite even greater dangers upon our home?" But another voice rose above the dissent, a fierce young woman named Aria, who had been monitoring the situation closely. She pointed out the inevitable consequence of inaction. "If we do not retaliate, they will only see our restraint as a sign of weakness. The galaxy will turn against us. If we allow this to continue," she looked around the room, gauging their reactions. Her words struck a chord. The president leaned forward in her chair. The stakes could not be higher. The fate of Earth and its allies hung in the balance. She called for a vote. The room fell silent as each leader pondered their choice. It was a moment of reckoning. As the votes were counted, the tension crackled in the air. Finally, the president announced the decision. "We will deploy our warships. We will send a message to the Galactic Council that Earth will not be bullied into submission. We will avenge our allies." Cheers erupted in the room. A mixture of relief and adrenaline coursed through the leaders as they prepared to mobilize Earth's forces. They quickly began discussing strategy and tactics, pooling their expertise to craft a plan that would maximize their chances of success. Meanwhile, technicians and engineers raced against the clock. On the launch pad, massive warships loomed overhead, gleaming with advanced weaponry and technology. Each ship was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Crew members bustled about, ensuring every system was operational, every weapon ready to fire. In the heart of the operations center, Aria coordinated with commanders from various divisions. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but there was also a thrill of purpose. She had always dreamed of protecting her people, and now she was about to lead them into battle. As the fleet began to assemble, she looked out at the warships. Her heart raced in anticipation. These vessels were not just machines. They were symbols of hope and resilience, the pride of humanity, ready to face the looming darkness of the Galactic Council. On the Unity, the captain fought desperately to keep her ship intact as the Council's forces closed in with relentless fury. They were not alone, however. Their distress signal had reached Earth, and now reinforcements were on the way. She rallied her crew, their resolve unwavering. They would fight until the last breath. As the final preparations were made on Earth, the fleet received the signal to launch. The moment was electric as each ship powered up and prepared for the journey. The galaxy awaited the retribution of a united Earth, and the flames of war flickered to life on the horizon. With the fleet finally taking off into the void of space, the mission to avenge their fallen allies had begun. Humanity was ready to confront the Galactic Council and reclaim their honor. They would not rest until justice was served, and the galaxy knew their strength. The atmosphere on the launch pad was electric as Earth's fleet of warships, readied for departure cruise, bustled about. Each member focused on their tasks. The pride of humanity rested upon their shoulders. The massive vessels stood like sentinels waiting to be unleashed into the vast unknown. Aria stood in the command center, her eyes scanning the monitors displaying the fleet's status. She felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The mission ahead was fraught with danger, but the stakes were too high to back down. She thought of the Valoran allies and the lives lost in the unprovoked attack. As the final checks were completed, the lead engineer approached Aria, a look of determination on his face. "Everything is operational and ready to go," he reported. "The crew is primed for action. We will make every shot count." She nodded, grateful for the dedication and expertise of those around her. Meanwhile, the president of the United Earth Federation addressed the assembled crew from the flagship. Her voice echoed through the comms as she spoke to the fleet. This is a mission of vengeance, but it is also a mission of justice. We fight not only for our allies, but for the future of our galaxy. May we strike fear into the hearts of those who wish to do us harm. Cheers erupted from the crew members, their resolve bolstered by the President's words. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the principles of unity and strength that Earth represented. With a final countdown, the ships began to launch one by one, piercing the silence of space. As the fleet hurtled through the void area, coordinated with various commanders, ensuring that each ship was in formation and ready for any potential encounters, she felt a rush of adrenaline course through her veins as they approached the Valoran system, each passing moment bringing them closer to the heart of the conflict. On the Unity, the captain and her crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational. Their previous skirmishes had left them battered, but unbroken. They refused to yield to despair. They would fight to protect what remained of their forces and hold out until help arrived. Aria's voice crackled over the comms, bringing renewed hope to the Unity. We are on our way. We will not let you face this alone. Stay strong and hold your position. Our reinforcements are coming. The crew cheered at her words, the determination igniting within them as they prepared for the oncoming battle. As Earth's fleet approached Valoran space, they began to pick up scattered signals of resistance. Remnants of the Valoran defenders, still holding against the onslaught of the Galactic Council. Aria analyzed the data, quickly devising a plan to assist them in their fight. Her strategy was simple yet effective. She called for coordinated strikes to target key enemy vessels, while providing cover for the beleaguered Valoran ships. Every ship in the fleet had its role to play, and the camaraderie that had developed during their journey became evident as the crew worked together seamlessly. The battle was about to begin. As they entered the fray, the view screens lit up with the sight of the Council's ships, firing indiscriminately. The chaos of battle unfolded before them, but Earth's warships were ready to retaliate with precision and fury. Aria felt a surge of pride as their fleet engaged the enemy. Her heart raced with every explosion and every successful maneuver. The crew fought valiantly side by side with their Valoran allies. No longer alone in their struggle, they were united in purpose and determination. As the first Council ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, cheers echoed throughout the fleet. Earth had arrived, and the tide of battle was beginning to turn, but there was still a long road ahead, and the true test of their resolve lay just beyond the horizon as they pressed forward into the heart of the conflict, knowing that the fight for justice and vengeance had only just begun. As the fleet advanced through the darkness of space, the atmosphere aboard the flagship was charged with energy, excitement, and apprehension mingled together in an exhilarating cocktail. Every crew member felt the weight of the mission pressing upon them. The determination to avenge their allies burned brightly in their hearts. Aria stood at her station, eyes glued to the holographic displays, showing the layout of Valoran space. They had entered the system, and the urgency of their task gripped her. The Galactic Council's forces were still engaged in battle with the Unity. Their allies were counting on them, and time was of the essence. The tactical officer beside her spoke up. We are picking up scattered signals from the Valoran defenders. They are holding, but just barely. We need to make our move now. She nodded, knowing that hesitation could mean disaster. The moment had come for decisive action. With a wave of her hand, she activated the fleet's comm system. This is Commander Aria. We are entering the fray. Our objective is to provide support to the Valoran forces and dismantle the Council's assault. Stay sharp and follow my lead. As the crew rallied around her words, she felt their spirits lift, a collective resolve fueling their determination. The fleet surged forward, their warships moving as one unit, each vessel gliding through the stars with an elegance that belied their size. Aria felt a surge of pride as she looked at the crew, their faces determined, their hands steady on the controls. Every inch of the ship resonated with their purpose. Suddenly the view screens flickered, showing the unfolding chaos of battle. The Unity was surrounded by Council ships, its crew fighting fiercely against overwhelming odds. Arya felt a knot of anxiety twist in her stomach, but she quickly pushed it aside. They were here to turn the tide. Her heart raced as they entered the combat zone. The ship's sensors lit up with incoming fire. She called out orders, her voice cutting through the din of alarms and chaos. Evade and return fire. Concentrate on the nearest enemy vessel. She watched as the crew moved with precision, executing maneuvers they had practiced countless times. The first shots rang out as their weapons systems engaged. A barrage of energy blasts tore through the void, illuminating the darkness. The ship rocked with the impact of enemy fire, but the crew held firm, their training taking over in the heat of battle. Arya shouted encouragement, urging them to keep pushing forward. Each successful hit against the Council ships sent waves of exhilaration through the crew. Cheers erupted as another enemy vessel was torn apart in a dazzling explosion. The Valoran defenders rallied at the sight of their reinforcements, newfound hope igniting within them. Arya monitored the tactical displays, adjusting their strategy as the battle unfolded. The Valoran ships moved in concert with Earth's fleet. The combined forces created a formidable front against the Council's aggression. Together, they launched a series of coordinated strikes, targeting the enemy's command ship. As they fought, the crew of the flagship forged connections in the heat of battle, shared glances of determination and courage. Their unity became a source of strength as they fought side by side with their Valoran allies. Each pulse of energy and each explosion underscored the reality of their mission. With every passing moment, the tide began to shift. The Galactic Council's forces faltered as their confidence wavered against the relentless onslaught from the united fleet. Arya felt a thrill of hope surge within her. They could win this, they could avenge their fallen allies. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new threat emerged on the sensors. An enormous flagship of the Galactic Council loomed on the horizon, its ominous silhouette casting a shadow over the battlefield. A wave of dread swept through the crew as they recognized the significance of this formidable vessel. Arya quickly recalibrated their tactics. The Council had brought their heavy artillery to bear, and she knew this was the moment they had been preparing for. Every ounce of training and determination would be tested as the battle escalated around them. She braced herself for the challenges that lay ahead. The journey was far from over, and they were ready to face it together. The atmosphere aboard the flagship shifted as the massive Council battleship emerged from the shadows, its sheer size dwarfing the surrounding vessels. A sense of foreboding settled over the crew as they prepared for the inevitable clash. This was no ordinary ship. It was a fortress of destruction, armed with devastating weaponry and advanced defensive systems. Arya's heart raced as she analyzed the tactical readouts. The flagship was heavily armored and bristled with turrets ready to unleash havoc on any approaching foes. We need to outmaneuver it, she called out to her team. Keep our distance and target its weak points. On the underbelly, she knew the battle would be challenging, but they had to act quickly. As they approached the flagship, the view screens displayed the chaos of battle in full swing. Valoran ships engaged in fierce combat with smaller Council vessels, their movements desperate yet determined. Every explosion painted a vivid picture of the struggle for survival unfolding in the void. Suddenly, the flagship unleashed a devastating barrage of fire toward the Valoran defenders. The blasts struck with a force that sent ships spiraling into oblivion. The sight filled Arya with rage. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for all those who had suffered under the Council's tyranny. She gripped the edge of her console as the crew executed evasive maneuvers. Her voice rose above the din of alarms. We need to create an opening for the Valoran ships, focus fire on those turrets, disable their weaponry. Now the crew responded with swift precision, their training kicking in as they executed the commands flawlessly. Energy beams flared from Earth's warships as they unleashed their firepower against the Council flagship. The strikes landed with resounding impacts, but the enemy's defenses held strong. A sense of urgency flooded the bridge. The longer they fought, the more perilous the situation became. Amidst the chaos, the Unity continued to hold its ground. The captain coordinated her crew with fierce determination. They fought valiantly against overwhelming odds, refusing to succumb to despair. Each successful maneuver inspired the Valoran defenders to rally and push back against their attackers. Aria's strategy began to pay off as their relentless assault forced the flagship to shift its focus, targeting Earth's fleet. Instead, a momentary opening emerged. She seized the opportunity. All ships concentrate fire on that turret. She commanded the crew rallied around her, and the barrage intensified. With each strike, the flagship's defenses began to falter. The crew cheered as another turret exploded in a shower of sparks, but the battle was far from over. They needed to maintain their momentum and exploit every weakness the enemy displayed. As the flagship reeled from their coordinated assault, it unleashed a retaliatory strike toward Earth's warships. The energy beams lit up the void with deadly precision. Ships rocked under the force of the impact's alarms, blared across the decks, and Aria's heart raced as she watched her comrades fight to maintain control. The Unity was struck hard, sending crew members sprawling across the deck, but the captain quickly regained her composure and barked orders. The ship was taking damage, but it would not fall. They would fight until the end. Aria felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders as she communicated with the other commanders, coordinating their next move. We have to keep pushing. We cannot let up on their flagship. If we do, we risk losing everything. She urged her team to dig deep and find the strength within them. The tide of battle ebbed and flowed as both sides fought fiercely for dominance. Every second felt like an eternity as the flagship retaliated with renewed vigor, but Aria's resolve only hardened. She could not allow fear to take root. They were humanity's defenders, and they would prevail. Finally, after what felt like hours of relentless combat, the flagship began to falter, its once impenetrable defenses cracking under the strain of their combined assault. Aria shouted to the crew, "Keep firing. We are close to breaking through now." Was the moment they had all fought for, the chance to strike a decisive blow against their oppressors. As the battle raged on, the Council flagship finally began to show signs of weakness, its hull marred by explosions and energy blasts. But even as victory seemed within reach, a nagging sense of unease crept into Aria's mind. Something about the intensity of the fight felt off, as if there were more at stake than just the current skirmish. With a final coordinated assault, Earth's warships unleashed a barrage of firepower, targeting the flagship's command center. The explosion that followed sent shockwaves through the battlefield as the flagship shuddered and began to list to one side. Cheers erupted throughout the fleet, but Aria remained focused. Her instincts told her this was only the beginning. Suddenly, the view screens lit up with frantic signals as Valoran ships continued to engage smaller Council vessels. But among the chaos, an encrypted transmission caught Aria's attention. She ordered the tactical officer to decode the signal as the crew worked diligently to crack the code. Anticipation hung heavy in the air. After what felt like an eternity, the officer shouted, "We've got it. The transmission is coming from one of the Council's smaller ships." Aria's heart raced as she leaned closer to the display. The words scrolled across the screen, revealing a chilling conspiracy hidden beneath the surface of the battle. The decoded message contained plans detailing the Galactic Council's strategy, a systematic approach to eliminate Valoran forces and seize control of their resources. The implications were staggering. The Council intended to wipe out the Valoran allies completely and expand their dominion across the galaxy. Aria felt a surge of anger rise within her. This was not merely a battle for survival, it was a calculated attempt at genocide. And now they had the evidence to expose it. "We have to relay this information to the fleet," she said, her voice steady, as she organized a plan to broadcast the message across the entire combat zone. The president's voice came over the comms, clear and authoritative. This is vital information. We cannot allow the Council to proceed with their plan. We must act quickly and decisively. She ordered the ships to regroup and prepare for a counter-offensive against any remaining Council forces. The crew sprang into action, re-establishing communication with the Valoran forces and coordinating their next steps. Aria worked tirelessly to ensure that every ship in the fleet received the intelligence they needed to understand the full extent of the Council's intentions. With renewed resolve, the combined forces of Earth and Valoran set their sights on the remaining Council ships. The battlefield transformed from a desperate defense to a unified front fighting against tyranny. The sense of camaraderie deepened as they fought for their shared future. As they pressed forward, the energy of the fleet shifted from survival to vengeance. They had uncovered the truth, and now they would not rest until every last Council ship was destroyed. Aria felt the adrenaline surge as they engaged the enemy, once more targeting any vessel that dared to stand in their way. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as Earth's warships and Valoran fighters combined their firepower, unleashing a storm of energy blasts that tore through the remaining Council forces. The cries of defiance echoed through the comms as their ships rallied behind the newfound knowledge of the enemy's true intentions. Every shot fired was fueled by the desire for justice for the lives lost and the atrocities planned by the Council. Aria felt a sense of purpose guiding her through the chaos. This was not just about vengeance, it was about ensuring that such cruelty would never happen again. With the final Council ships beginning to crumble under their assault, the remnants of the fleet focused on dismantling their stronghold one by one. They fell in a brilliant display of light and fury. As the cheers of victory rang out across the comms, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Even as they celebrated their hard-won victory, the weight of the conspiracy lingered in her mind. The galaxy would need to know the truth about the Galactic Council and their ruthless ambition. They had opened a door to a new fight, and she was ready to lead the charge into the unknown. The aftermath of the battle felt surreal as the last remnants of the Council fleet crumbled under the relentless assault of Earth and Valoran forces. The void was illuminated by the fading explosions of enemy ships, and yet amidst the victory, a palpable tension lingered in the air. Aria knew this was not the end. As the ships regrouped in the Valoran system, Aria convened a strategy session with the commanders of both Earth and Valoran forces. They had received vital intelligence, but there was still much to do. The Galactic Council would not take this defeat lightly, and retaliation was inevitable. Gathered in the flagship's command center, the atmosphere was tense, but focused. We must anticipate the Council's next move, Aria stated, looking around at the faces of the commanders' determination etched on each of them. The data we uncovered indicates they have a larger base of operations nearby. We need to strike before they can regroup. The President nodded in agreement. We cannot afford to give them time to recover. We will launch a coordinated assault on their stronghold. The room buzzed with energy as plans were drawn up, each commander detailing their ship's capabilities and potential roles in the upcoming attack. With each passing moment, Aria felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier. They had fought hard to reach this point, and now they needed to ensure that their victory would not be in vain. As they finalized their strategy, she reminded the commanders of the stakes involved. The survival of Valoran allies depended on their actions. The fleet prepared for the final assault, their warships primed and ready. The Valoran fighters took their positions alongside Earth's fleet, forging a united front. As they moved toward the Council's stronghold, the vastness of space stretched before them, a canvas of uncertainty and danger. As they approached the enemy base, the sensors lit up with activity. The Council had clearly anticipated an attack and had begun to fortify their defenses. Massive turrets bristled across the surface of the stronghold, targeting their approach. Aria's heart raced, but she held firm. They had come too far to turn back now. "We have to disrupt their defenses," she called out, initiating the battle plan. The ships fanned out into formation, coordinating their movements to maximize their firepower. "We need to create openings for the Valoran fighters to penetrate the defenses and target the command center." The battle commenced with a fury as Earth's fleet unleashed a barrage of energy blasts against the stronghold. The turrets fired back, striking ships and causing damage, but the crews fought valiantly following Aria's orders. Every pulse of energy served to fuel their determination to succeed. With the initial assault underway, Aria monitored the tactical displays, analyzing the effectiveness of their strikes. Her mind raced as she spotted potential weak points in the stronghold's defenses. "There, a turret we can target that will create an opening." She quickly relayed the information to the fleet. As the ships adjusted their focus, they pressed forward, targeting the designated turret. A combined strike sent the turret spiraling into oblivion. Cheers erupted across the comms as the crew felt the tide shift in their favor. The Valoran fighters surged ahead, taking advantage of the openings created. Aria's heart soared as they pushed deeper into the stronghold's defenses. Every successful maneuver seemed to embolden the crew. The atmosphere transformed from desperation to determination as they fought side by side, their unity on display as they pressed forward. But just as victory felt within reach, the Council retaliated with a powerful counterattack. Massive energy beams shot out from the stronghold, striking Earth's warships with devastating force. Aria felt the impact reverberate through her own ship, but she refused to let fear take hold. "Maintain formation," she commanded, rallying her crew as they pushed through the onslaught. Every member of the fleet felt the weight of the battle, but they stood firm together. They were more than soldiers, they were protectors of their galaxy, and they would not falter. As the assault continued, the tension mounted. Each moment brought them closer to the culmination of their efforts. Aria knew that the true test of their resolve lay just ahead, and they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the heart of the storm. The battle intensified as Earth's fleet pushed deeper into the heart of the Council's stronghold. Energy beams sliced through space, illuminating the chaos that surrounded them. Every ship was a testament to resilience and determination as they fought to dismantle the enemy's defenses. Aria could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, her focus unwavering. With the command center in sight, Aria rallied her commanders. "We need to breach the stronghold's inner sanctum. If we take out their leadership, we can cripple their operations and send a message that will echo throughout the galaxy." Her words resonated with the crew, igniting a renewed sense of purpose. As they maneuvered through the chaos, the air was thick with tension. Every explosion sent shockwaves through the ships. The once proud stronghold of the Council now seemed vulnerable and ripe for destruction. Aria could almost taste victory on the horizon, but she remained vigilant, knowing the enemy would fight to the last breath. The Valoran fighters flanked Earth's warships, providing cover as they advanced toward the command center. Their coordinated strikes were relentless, every pulse of energy aimed with deadly precision. Each successful hit reinforced their resolve. They were not just fighting for themselves, but for the future of their people. Suddenly, an alarm blared as enemy reinforcements arrived. Ships materialized from the shadows, adding to the Council's defenses. The tide of battle shifted again, and Aria's heart sank. But she refused to allow despair to take hold. They had come too far to falter now. "We can't let them regroup," she shouted over the din of alarms. "Initiate the secondary assault plan. Coordinate with the Valoran fighters. Target their reinforcements before they can gain momentum." The crew responded with fervor as they executed the orders with military precision. As the fleet engaged the new enemy ships, Aria felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her. She monitored the battlefield, the chaos unfolding in real time, and she knew that every decision mattered. They could not afford any missteps. This was a moment that would define their legacy. With every explosion, the resolve of the fleet hardened. The Council's reinforcements began to crumble under the onslaught As the ships fell one by one, cheers erupted throughout the comms. A wave of hope surged through the crew. They could feel victory drawing nearer. Finally, as the remnants of the enemy forces began to retreat, Aria seized the moment. "We have to push through to the command center now," she commanded, her voice unwavering. The crew rallied around her, their determination palpable as they surged forward through the wreckage of the battlefield. They broke through the last line of defenses and came face to face with the stronghold's command center. It loomed before them, a monolithic structure teeming with council personnel. Aria's heart raced. This was it, the culmination of their efforts. "We breach the doors and take out their leadership," she ordered every crew member, steeling themselves for the confrontation. They would not only avenge their allies, but send a clear message to the Galactic Council that their reign of terror was over. As they prepared for the final push, Aria felt a sense of camaraderie wash over her. They were united in purpose, fighting for a brighter future. The crew braced themselves as the door exploded open, revealing the council leaders gathered around a central control console. The moment was electric as the two forces collided. Blasters fired and energy beams illuminated the room. The air crackled with tension, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. But in that moment, Aria knew they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for justice and freedom. With every clash and explosion, the tide of the battle shifted. The council leaders realized their defeat was imminent. Panic rippled through their ranks, but it was too late. Earth's forces fought with relentless determination as they dismantled the last vestiges of the council's power. As the final council leader fell, Aria felt a surge of triumph wash over her. They had done it. They had reclaimed their honor and avenged their allies. The cheers of victory rang out across the comms, a sound that would resonate throughout the galaxy. In that moment of triumph, Aria looked around at her crew and allies, knowing that together they had forged a new legacy, one built on resilience, unity, and the unwavering belief that they could overcome any challenge that lay ahead. The galaxy was theirs to protect, and they would stand vigilant against tyranny now and always.